Several floating orbs, the university's helper robots, bobbed around her head, scanning her credentials. Human biosigns detected. Please confirm identity, chirped the nearest orb. Professor Jaiwan, new comparative biology faculty, she said clearly. The orbs flashed green and scattered, leaving her alone in the curved hallway. Well, not quite alone. Through the transparent walls, she could see classrooms filled with alien students. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few seemed to be made entirely of crystal. They were all studying various biological specimens, just as she had done back on Earth. A tall figure stepped into her path. Department Head Nere stood nearly 8 feet tall, with silvery skin that sparkled under the artificial lights. Her 4 eyes blinked in an uneven pattern that Jaiwan had learned meant disapproval among her species. "You're early," Nere said, her translator making her voice sound like chimes in the wind. "We weren't expecting you for another rotation." Jaiwan smiled politely. "I thought it would be good to set up my classroom before the term starts." Nere's secondary arms crossed while her primary ones held a floating screen. "You understand this is highly irregular. We've never had a human teaching advanced biology before." "That's exactly why I'm here," Jaiwan said, keeping her voice steady. "The council agreed that the galaxy needs to better understand human biology, especially after the misunderstandings during the First Contact War." Nere's skin flickered, the equivalent of a frown. "Ah yes, when your species surprised everyone by surviving radiation levels that should have been fatal. Pure luck, obviously." Jaiwan bit back a sharp reply. She dealt with this attitude throughout her application process. Many alien species still thought humans were simple creatures who had stumbled into space travel by accident. "Professor Jaiwan," a new voice called out. A younger alien hurried toward them, his green scales shifting colors with excitement. "I'm Taeho, your assigned teaching assistant. I've been studying human biology independently for 3 cycles." Jaiwan smiled genuinely this time. At least someone was happy to see her. "Taeho, please show Professor Jaiwan to her laboratory," Nere said, all 4 eyes now fixed on her floating screen. "And do remind her that we expect all faculty to maintain our high standards. We wouldn't want any incidents." As they walked away, Taeho's scales turned a sympathetic blue. "Don't mind the department head. She's still upset because her paper on human organ redundancy was proven wrong." "Organ redundancy?" Jaiwan asked, raising an eyebrow. "Oh yes. Until recently, most alien biologists thought humans had too many organs. They couldn't understand why you needed both a liver and kidneys for filtration, or why you had such a complex digestive system." Taeho's scales rippled with amusement. No one could explain why such an inefficient species survived so well. They reached a large laboratory with walls that could become transparent or opaque on command. Inside, holographic displays waited to be programmed, and research stations stood ready for students. "Your first class starts in 3 days," Taeho said, pulling up the roster on a floating screen. "Introduction to Human Biology for Advanced Species. We already have 47 students signed up." Jaiwan set her tablet down and began organizing her teaching materials. "What's the current textbook?" Taeho's scales turned an embarrassed purple. "Well, it's a bit outdated. It still lists humans as Class 3 endurance beings with limited environmental adaptation capabilities." Jaiwan couldn't help but laugh. If they only knew about human marathon runners, or deep-sea divers, or mountain climbers. "I think it's time for some updates." As she settled into her new workspace, a message flashed across her screen. The department head had scheduled a faculty meeting for the next day. The topic, discussing standards for non-traditional instructors. Jaiwan straightened her back and smiled. She hadn't traveled across the galaxy to give up at the first sign of resistance. By the time she was done, every student in this university would understand why humans had earned their place among the stars. Taeho watched her with all 3 of his eyes. "You're planning something, aren't you?" Just a few simple demonstrations, Jai-1 said, already making notes. It's time to show the galaxy what human biology is really capable of. Outside the laboratory window, the alien sun was setting, painting the sky in impossible colors. Somewhere in the university, Nere was probably plotting ways to make Jai-1's job harder. But that was okay. After all, humans had a long history of beating impossible odds. And this was just the beginning. Jai-1 stood before her first class, looking at the strangest group of students she had ever seen. The lecture hall was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles, others sat in specially designed chairs, and a few hung from the ceiling. "Welcome to Introduction to Human Biology," she said clearly, watching the translation orbs float around the room, converting her words into various alien languages. "I'm Professor Jai-1. And yes, I am a real human." A wave of excited chirps, clicks, and hums filled the room. In the front row, a crystalline being raised what appeared to be an arm. "Yes," Jai-1 pointed to the student. "Professor, is it true that humans leak water from their bodies when their temperature regulation fails?" The crystal student's voice chimed through the translator. "You mean sweating?" "Yes, that's correct. But it's not a failure. It's how we cool down," Jai-1 explained, pulling up a hologram of the human cooling system. Another student, this one looking like a floating cloud of gas, pulsed with purple light. "But Professor, our textbook says humans are constantly at risk of overheating because they lack proper temperature regulation." Tai-Ho, who stood near the door, turned an amused shade of green. He had warned her about the outdated textbook, but this was worse than she'd expected. Jai-1 took a deep breath. "Let's see what else your textbook says about humans." She pulled up the standard text on her screen and began reading aloud. Her eyes grew wider with each passage. "Humans require frequent periods of unconsciousness to function. Their bones are filled with holes. They possess an unnecessary number of teeth." She couldn't help but laugh. "Well, it seems we have a lot of misconceptions to clear up." A student with 6 eyes and metallic skin raised 3 of their limbs. "Is it true that humans can repair broken bones?" "Our medical texts say this is impossible without advanced technology." "Actually," Jai-1 said, bringing up an X-ray image, "human bones can heal naturally. Our bodies are constantly repairing themselves." The room erupted in chaos. Students began talking all at once, their translation orbs creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. "But that defies basic biology. How can cells rebuild solid structures? Are humans actually advanced self-repairing robots?" Jai-1 clapped her hands loudly, a sound that made several floating students bob in surprise. Okay. Let's take this one step at a time. First, I want to show you something interesting." She pulled up her medical records on the holographic display. "These are scans of my own body. Notice anything unusual?" The students leaned forward, their various sensory organs focused on the images. A small plant-like student near the back suddenly rustled its leaves in excitement. "There are marks of old injuries, multiple healed fractures." "Exactly," Jai-1 said. "When I was younger, I broke my arm climbing trees. It healed completely in 6 weeks. No technology needed." The crystalline student vibrated in distress. "But Professor, our species would shatter permanently from such damage." "That's why understanding different species biology is so important," Jai-1 explained. "What's deadly for one species might be a minor inconvenience for another." Suddenly, a loud crash came from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see that one of the floating students had dropped their tablet in shock, creating a small explosion of sparks. Tai-Ho rushed to help, his scales turning a concerned orange. "Perhaps we should take a brief break, Professor." Jai-1 nodded, watching as the class buzzed with excited discussions. She noticed several students were already updating their notes, marking corrections in their textbooks. A small mouse-like alien scurried up to her desk. "Professor, my name is Newell. I have so many questions about human biology." Like, is it true that you can eat almost anything without dying? Well, not anything, Jai-1 smiled. But we are pretty good at processing different types of food. Would you like to see my digestive system diagram? Haenul's whiskers twitched with excitement. Yes, please. My species can only eat 3 types of moss. The idea of eating different foods is fascinating. As Jai-1 began explaining human digestion to her eager student, she noticed Department Head Nere watching from the doorway. All 4 eyes narrowed in concern. The older alien clearly hadn't expected the class to be so engaging. Jai-1 smiled to herself. This was just the beginning of their education. Wait until they learned about human adrenaline responses, or the way human bones could become stronger after breaking, or how human mothers could lift vehicles to save their children. The galaxy wasn't ready for what they were about to learn about humans, but they were certainly going to learn it, one shocking revelation at a time. The morning after her first lecture, Jai-1 received an urgent message to appear before the Biology Department Council. She arrived at the meeting chamber to find Department Head Nere seated at the center of a curved table, surrounded by other senior faculty members of various species. Professor Jai-1, Nere began, her silvery skin gleaming under the artificial lights. We have received numerous reports about yesterday's lecture. Students are questioning our approved textbooks. This is unacceptable. Jai-1 stood straight, maintaining her professional composure. The textbooks contain incorrect information about human biology. As an educator, it is my duty to provide accurate information. A faculty member who appeared to be made of living smoke drifted forward. But your explanations contradict established galactic biological principles. How can bones repair themselves without technological intervention? It defies logic. Many aspects of human biology might seem unusual to other species, Jai-1 explained. That is precisely why this course is valuable. Nere's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. Very well. We propose a challenge. You will have 3 standard months to prove that human biology deserves a place in our curriculum. What are the terms? Jai-1 asked, noticing how the other faculty members leaned forward with interest. You must demonstrate 3 unique aspects of human biology that have practical value for galactic science, Nere declared. If you fail, you will resign your position immediately. Before Jai-1 could respond, the chamber door opened. A tall, slender alien with iridescent scales entered. Unlike Taiho's green coloring, this alien's scales shifted between deep blue and purple. Pardon my interruption, the newcomer said, bowing slightly. I am Sung-min from the Research Division. I would like to volunteer my assistance with Professor Jai-1's demonstrations. Nere's skin flickered with annoyance. This is a closed meeting, Researcher Sung-min. With respect, Department Head, the university charter allows any researcher to offer assistance in academic challenges. Sung-min's scales rippled with confidence. I have been studying human biological data for some time. Jai-1 observed the exchange with interest. She hadn't expected to find allies so quickly. I accept both the challenge and Researcher Sung-min's assistance, she announced. 3 unique aspects of human biology, demonstrated through scientific method and peer review. The smoke-like professor swirled in agitation. And what if your demonstrations prove dangerous? Humans are known to be unpredictable. That is why all experiments will be conducted under standard safety protocols. Sung-min interjected. I have already prepared the necessary documentation. Nere rose from her seat, towering over both Jai-1 and Sung-min. Very well. You have 3 months. Your first demonstration must be ready in 1 month. The entire faculty will attend. As they left the chamber, Sung-min turned to Jai-1. Professor, I have been collecting data on human biological capabilities for years. No one would listen to my research proposals. But now we have a chance to prove it. Jai-1 completed the thought. But we'll need more help. I believe I know someone, Sung-min said, scales shifting to an excited violet. Your student Haenul has been asking interesting questions in the research library. questions about human endurance and stress responses. Jai-1 smiled. Gather Tahoe and Hainul. Meet me in my laboratory in 1 hour. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do. As they walked through the curved hallways, other faculty members watched them with mixtures of curiosity and skepticism. Ji-1 heard whispers about primitive biology and simple organisms, but she didn't let it bother her. She remembered her grandmother's words before she left Earth. They think we're simple because they don't understand us. Sometimes the simplest things are the most remarkable. In her laboratory, Jai-1 began preparing her research notes. Their first demonstration would need to be dramatic enough to capture attention, but scientifically sound enough to withstand scrutiny. Perhaps it was time to show them exactly what happened when humans faced impossible odds. After all, humanity hadn't survived and thrived across Earth's harshest environments by being simple. They had done it by being extraordinary in the most ordinary ways. Now she just had to prove it to a galaxy that had already made up its mind about humans. The challenge was set. The team was forming. And somewhere in the vast university archives, the truth about human biological capabilities waited to be revealed. Tahoe checked the safety barriers while Sungmin calibrated the sensors. Hainul sat in the front row, whiskers twitching with excitement. Department head Nere and the entire biology faculty filled the observation area. Please begin your demonstration, Professor, Nere said, her voice cool and professional. Today, we will examine human stress responses, Jai-1 announced. Specifically, how humans react to sudden danger. She nodded to Sungmin, who activated a holographic display showing human biological readings. These are my current vital signs. Notice the steady baseline. Rather unremarkable readings, commented one of the smoke-formed professors, similar to many basic species. Jai-1 smiled. Now, watch what happens when. A loud crash interrupted her. One of the laboratory's containment units had failed. A specimen, a large predatory creature from a distant world, escaped into the demonstration hall. Several faculty members moved to teleport away, but Sungmin's voice cut through the panic. Please remain calm. The safety barriers are active. The creature, resembling a cross between a tiger and a praying mantis, stalked toward the observation area. Its claws clicked against the floor as it approached the invisible barrier separating it from the audience. Professor, Tahoe's scales had turned pale with worry. The safety barrier is only at 30% power. Jai-1's body reacted before her mind could process the danger. Her heart rate doubled. Adrenaline flooded her system. Time seemed to slow down. The display screen showed her changing vital signs. Her pupils dilated. Oxygen consumption increased. Blood flow redirected to her muscles. Without hesitation, Jai-1 grabbed a metal research pole from nearby equipment. She moved between the creature and the barrier, her movements precise and controlled. Hainul, Emergency Protocol 7. She called out. The small alien understood immediately, activating the backup containment field generators. The creature lunged. Jai-1 rolled to the side, using the pole to deflect its attack. Her movements were faster than anyone expected from a simple human. Look at these readings, Sungmin exclaimed, his scales shimmering with scientific excitement. Muscle efficiency up by 300%. Reaction time decreased by 60%. Neural processing speed doubled. The faculty watched in amazement as Jai-1 continued to outmaneuver the creature. She wasn't stronger or larger, but her enhanced reactions and decision-making kept her one step ahead. Containment field at full power. Hainul announced. The creature found itself trapped in a bubble of energy. As security drones arrived to return the specimen to its proper containment, Jai-1 stood calmly, her breathing returning to normal. She picked up her tablet and faced the stunned audience. What you just witnessed was the human acute stress response, commonly known as the fight or flight system. Our bodies can instantly prepare for survival situations. Nere floated forward, all four eyes fixed on the biological readings. These changes, They happened automatically. Yes, Jai-1 confirmed. No technological enhancement needed, just natural human biology. But the speed of your reactions, another professor interjected. The coordination, the risk assessment, all while maintaining complex problem-solving abilities. Sung Min stepped forward, his scales now a proud purple. That's what makes it remarkable. Humans don't just survive danger. They can think and adapt while doing it. Newell had been taking rapid notes. Professor, is this why humans were able to survive on a planet with so many predators? Exactly, Jai-1 said. Our bodies evolved these responses over millions of years. We can activate them instantly and maintain them for extended periods. The faculty members began discussing among themselves, their previous dismissal replaced by genuine scientific interest. Even Nere seemed thoughtful. A most unexpected demonstration, the department head finally said, though I must point out that the specimen's escape was a serious safety violation. Sung Min's scales flickered with amusement. Actually, department head, the escape was carefully controlled. The creature was never in danger, nor were any of the observers. We needed to create a genuine stress response for accurate readings. Jai-1 straightened her clothing and smiled. Shall we review the data in detail? I believe you'll find that human stress responses have fascinating implications for emergency medicine and crisis management across species. As the faculty gathered around the data displays, Newell approached Jai-1. Professor, that was amazing. What other surprises do humans have? Many, Jai-1 replied quietly. This was just the first demonstration. Wait until they learn about human endurance. 2 weeks after the adrenaline demonstration, the university's athletic complex hosted an unprecedented event. Professor Jai-1 had arranged a comparative species marathon to demonstrate human endurance capabilities. The climate-controlled dome stretched for kilometers, containing various terrains and environmental conditions. Department head Nere addressed the gathered audience from her hovering platform. Following the previous demonstration, Professor Jai-1 has proposed to showcase human endurance characteristics. Multiple species have volunteered to participate in this experimental comparison. Jai-1 stood at the starting line alongside Taiho, who had insisted on participating. 5 other aliens from different species joined them, each chosen for their reputation in distance activities. The observers watched from floating platforms, their scientific instruments ready to record every detail. The course is 42 kilometers, Sung Min announced from the control center. Participants will encounter varying temperatures and terrains. Medical monitoring is continuous, and safety protocols are in place. Newell managed the biological data displays, showing the vital signs of all participants. Beginning baseline readings now, Professor. The race began without ceremony. The alien participants started strong, using their various biological advantages. One crystalline being glided efficiently across the ground. A gas-form alien moved like wind through the course. A 6-legged runner took an early lead. Jai-1 and Taiho maintained a steady pace. Hour 1 passed. Then Hour 2. The temperature increased. The terrain became challenging. The first participant, the gas-form alien, withdrew after becoming too diffused to continue. Fascinating, commented a faculty member. The human maintains consistent speed despite environmental changes. By Hour 3, the crystalline being had stopped, its energy reserves depleted. The 6-legged runner slowed significantly, showing signs of extreme fatigue. Yet J1 continued running, her steady pace unchanged. Observe the human cooling system in action, Sung Min pointed out. Through perspiration, they maintain optimal body temperature. No technological assistance required. Newell's whiskers twitched as she studied the readings. Professor Jai-1's metabolic efficiency is remarkable. She's burning energy at a sustainable rate while maintaining physical output. Taiho had fallen behind but continued moving, his scales shifting between determined green and tired blue. The remaining aliens watched in disbelief as J1 maintained her pace through changing elevations and temperatures. Impossible, Nere muttered, all four eyes fixed on the data. No species can maintain physical activity this long without rest. Actually, Sung Min explained, his scales rippling with academic excitement, humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would pursue prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. By hour 4, only Jai-1 continued running. She completed the marathon distance with a steady stride, her vital signs showing expected exertion, but nothing dangerous. The faculty members floated in stunned silence. Would anyone like to understand how this is possible? Jai-1 asked, walking easily despite having run for hours. She brought up a holographic display of human biological systems. Bipedal movement conserves energy. Our cooling system prevents overheating. Our respiratory system maintains steady oxygen uptake. Even our ability to carry water while moving contributes to our endurance capabilities. Nere descended from her platform. This endurance, it is common among humans. With proper training, yes, Jai-1 confirmed. Humans regularly participate in activities called ultramarathons, running hundreds of kilometers. The faculty erupted in discussion. Some argued about the implications for spatial exploration. Others debated the advantages in colonial development. Even the most skeptical professors showed interest in the data. Taiho finally crossed the finish line, his scales a mixture of exhaustion and admiration. Professor, I never understood until today. Your species doesn't just survive. You persist. This changes everything we thought we knew about biological efficiency, Newell added, still recording data. The applications for long-term space missions alone. Jai-1 smiled as she watched the academic community process this new understanding of human capabilities. Their second demonstration had succeeded beyond expectations, but she knew the best was yet to come. Shall we discuss the implications of human endurance in hostile environments? She asked the assembled faculty. I believe you'll find our adaptability quite interesting. In the university's advanced medical laboratory, Newell peered through a microscope at a sample of human blood. The small alien had spent weeks studying human immune responses, fascinated by their complexity. Today, something unusual caught their attention. Professor Jai-1. Newell called out, whiskers vibrating with excitement. You need to see this. Jai-1 walked over from her workstation, where she had been preparing for their final demonstration. Sung Min followed, his scales showing curious patterns of blue and gold. What have you found? Jai-1 asked, adjusting the microscope's settings. Your white blood cells. They're adapting to the alien bacteria we introduced. Not just fighting them, but learning from them. Newell's voice squeaked with scientific excitement. Sung Min checked the data readings. This is remarkable. The human immune system isn't just destroying the foreign bodies. It's creating new defense mechanisms specifically designed for each threat. Jai-1 smiled. She had wondered when someone would notice this particular aspect of human biology. This is how we survive on Earth. Our immune systems learn and remember every threat they encounter. The laboratory door opened, and Department Head Nere entered with several other faculty members. They had come to review the progress of the final demonstration preparation. What is this commotion about? Nere asked, her silvery skin reflecting the laboratory lights. We've discovered something extraordinary about human immune responses, Newell explained, pulling up the detailed scans on the main display screen. Look at how their defensive cells adapt. The faculty gathered around the displays, their various sensory organs focused on the data. The screen showed human white blood cells encountering and learning from new pathogens in real time. Impossible, one professor said, their crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. A biological system cannot create new defense mechanisms without technological assistance. And yet, we do, Jai-1 explained. She brought up her own medical history. See these markers? They show immunities I've developed naturally over my lifetime. Each one represents a successful adaptation to a new threat. Sung Min added his research data to the display. Most species have fixed immune responses. They either resist a threat or don't. But humans, their immune systems actually evolve during their lifetime. This is why humans can survive on so many different worlds. Newell realized, making rapid notes. Their bodies don't just fight threats. They learn from them and become stronger. Nere moved closer to the displays. All four eyes narrowed in concentration. Show me the comparison data with other species. Jai-1 pulled up the charts they had prepared. The differences were clear. While other species showed consistent but unchanging immune responses, human immune systems displayed remarkable adaptability. This has implications for interspecies medicine. Sung-min noted, his scales shifting to excited purple. Understanding how human immune systems adapt could help us develop better treatments for all species. One of the faculty members, a being made of pure energy, pulsed with interest. Could this explain how humans survived the first contact plague, when other species required extensive medical intervention? Exactly, Jai-1 confirmed. Our immune systems encountered the new virus, learned its patterns, and developed defenses. It's a natural process for us. Newell had been running additional tests. Professor, look, the adapted immune cells are now protecting other types of cells. They're teaching the rest of the immune system. The laboratory filled with excited discussion as the implications became clear. This wasn't just about survival. It was about continuous adaptation and improvement. Nere's skin flickered with what might have been reluctant admiration. This would be a suitable final demonstration for your challenge. Professor Ji-1, the medical community will be particularly interested. Thank you, Department Head. Jai-1 replied professionally. But this discovery belongs to Newell. Their careful observation revealed these details. Newell's whiskers trembled with pride. The small alien had just made their first major scientific contribution to galactic knowledge. As the faculty members discussed the implications, Jai-1 watched her team with satisfaction. They had discovered something that would change galactic medicine forever. And it was only the beginning of understanding human biological capabilities. News of the human immune system discovery spread through the Galactic University of Sciences like wildfire. The morning after Newell's breakthrough, Professor Jai-1 arrived at her classroom to find it overflowing with students. Many sat on the floor, while others floated near the ceiling. Department Head Nere stood in the doorway, her silvery skin showing signs of agitation. This is unacceptable. You have 3 times the approved class capacity. These students want to learn, Jai-1 responded calmly. Surely that aligns with our academic mission. Before Nere could reply, her communication device chimed. The Dean of Sciences requested an immediate meeting with both of them. They made their way to the Dean's office, passing groups of excited students discussing human biology. The Dean, a being of pure light contained in an elegant environmental suit, greeted them. We have a situation. The Galactic Medical Council has contacted us about Professor Ji-1's research. Nere's skin flickered with concern. I assure you, Dean, we are handling the unusual nature of. They want to fund a full department dedicated to human biological studies. The Dean interrupted. Apparently, the adaptive immune system research has significant medical applications. Jai-1 maintained her professional composure, but inside she felt triumphant. On the desk, a holographic display showed messages from universities across the galaxy requesting access to her research data. Furthermore, the Dean continued, Newell's paper on human immune responses has become the most downloaded scientific article in university history. In the hallway outside, they could hear excited voices. Taiho and Sung-min had organized an impromptu lecture on human biological adaptations. Students from every department had gathered to listen. Nere's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. But this goes against established biological principles. The academic community cannot simply. Science advances through new discoveries, the Dean stated firmly. And speaking of advancement, Professor Jai-1's demonstrations have attracted attention from the Galactic Research Foundation. Jai-1 thought about her small team. Haenul's dedication, Sung Min's support, and Taiho's enthusiasm. Together, they had changed how the galaxy viewed human biology. Department Head Jai-1 said carefully, "Perhaps we could work together on this opportunity. Your experience would be valuable in establishing the new department." Nere paused, her natural academic curiosity visibly conflicting with her previous dismissal of human biology. The immune system adaptation does have interesting implications. The dean's environmental suit glowed with approval. "Excellent, because we have received 500 new student applications for next term's human biology courses." In the main hall, Haenul had set up a display showing human cellular regeneration. Students watched in amazement as time-lapse footage showed human tissues healing themselves. "Professor," Sung Min called from the doorway, his scales a bright, excited purple. "The Galactic Medical Council wants to know if you would present at their annual conference. They're particularly interested in how human stress responses might improve emergency medical procedures." Jai-1 looked at Nere, who now seemed lost in thought. "Department Head, would you be interested in collaborating on the presentation? Your expertise in comparative biology would be valuable." Nere's skin shifted to a subtle shade of acceptance. "Perhaps there are aspects of human biology that deserve further study. Your species has proven more complex than our initial assessment suggested." The dean's light form brightened. Then it settled. "We will establish the Department of Human Biological Studies immediately. Professor Jai-1, please prepare a curriculum proposal." As they left the dean's office, they found the hallways filled with students and faculty engaged in excited discussions about human biological capabilities. The university would never be quite the same. "You know," Nere said quietly, "I may need to revise my paper on human organ redundancy. Perhaps having backup systems isn't so inefficient after all." The Grand Lecture Hall of the Galactic University of Sciences had never been so full. Representatives from every major scientific institution in the galaxy had gathered for Professor Jai-1's presentation to the Galactic Education Board. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Jai-1 stood at the center of the presentation area, surrounded by advanced holographic displays. Her team occupied the front row, Taiho managing the technical systems, Sung Min organizing the research data, and Haenul preparing to assist with demonstrations. Department Head Nere sat with the Education Board members, her silvery skin reflecting the soft lighting. Over the past months, she had transformed from a skeptic into a cautious supporter of human biological studies. "Distinguished members of the board," Jai-1 began, her voice clear and professional. "Today we present our findings on human biological capabilities and their implications for galactic science." The main display activated, showing a three-dimensional model of human biological systems. "Our research has revealed three key aspects of human biology that offer significant value to the scientific community." Haenul stepped forward, operating the controls with practiced expertise. The display focused on human stress response systems. "First, we demonstrate the remarkable human ability to enhance physical and mental capabilities in response to challenges." The audience watched footage from the adrenaline incident. Board members leaned forward, studying the data graphs that showed the dramatic yet controlled changes in human biology. "This adaptive stress response," Jai-1 explained, "has applications in emergency protocols and crisis management across species. The ability to maintain cognitive function under extreme conditions is particularly noteworthy." Sung Min advanced the presentation to the endurance demonstration data. His scales shifted to confident purple as he addressed the board. "Human endurance capabilities challenge our understanding of biological efficiency." The display showed comparison data from the marathon experiment. While other species optimize for short-term performance, humans excel at sustained activity. This has implications for long-term space exploration and colonial development. A board member, a crystalline being of great age, raised a faceted appendage. "These adaptations seem costly in terms of energy expenditure. How is this sustainable?" "An excellent question," Jai-1 responded. She brought up detailed metabolic data. Human bodies constantly adjust energy distribution. We can maintain activity far longer than conventional biological models suggest possible. The presentation moved to its final section. Newell stepped forward, whiskers quivering with pride as they displayed their immune system research. The human immune system demonstrates unprecedented adaptability. The holographic display showed time-lapse footage of human white blood cells learning from and adapting to new threats. The audience murmured with interest as they watched biological processes that defied traditional understanding. This discovery, Jai-1 continued, has already led to 3 new research projects in interspecies medicine. The implications for treating currently incurable conditions are significant. Nere stood, addressing both the board and the audience. As department head, I initially questioned the value of human biological studies. The evidence has proven me wrong. Their seemingly simple biology contains remarkable complexity. The board members consulted among themselves, their various forms of communication creating an interesting display of lights, sounds, and movements. The crystalline elder spoke for the group. Professor Jai-1, your team has demonstrated not just the value of human biology, but the importance of challenging established scientific assumptions. The board approves the establishment of a permanent department of human biological studies. The audience erupted in excited discussion. Ji-Wan looked at her team. Newell's proud whisker twitches, Sung-Min's celebratory scale patterns, and Tai-Ho's bright green glow of success. Together, they had changed the galaxy's understanding of human biology forever. John looked around the small room. It had a bed, a desk, and a chair. There was one window that let in a little bit of light. He sat down on the bed. It felt hard and uncomfortable. He wondered how long he would have to stay here. He hoped it would not be too long. Just then, the door opened. A tall man with gray hair walked in. He wore a white coat like a doctor. The man looked at John and smiled. But the smile did not reach his eyes. "Hello, John," the man said. "My name is Dr. Stevens. How are you feeling today?" John did not know what to say. He did not feel good, but he did not want to say that. "I'm okay," he said quietly. Dr. Stevens nodded. "Good, good. We will take good care of you here, John. You are safe now." John was not sure about that. This place did not feel safe. It felt strange and a little scary. He wished he could go home. The doctor asked John a few more questions. John answered as best he could. Then the doctor left, closing and locking the door behind him. John lay down on the hard bed. He felt very alone and a little afraid. He did not understand what was happening or why he had to stay in this place. He closed his eyes and hoped that when he opened them again, he would be back home in his own room. But deep down, he knew that would not happen. John eventually fell into an uneasy sleep filled with shadowy dreams that he could not quite remember when he woke up. How much time had passed? An hour? A day? He wasn't sure. There was no clock, and the window only showed gray skies that never seemed to change.